Hello. We
Hi.
can start. So welcome to the December 5th Pre-Planning Commission meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order. See if there are any announcements from staff.
Just make one announcement that we did have the appointment of John Temple as our alternate commission member on last night's city council meeting. So we're excited to have John joining us. I think he might be jumping on this afternoon, but he does plan on attending Monday night. John has been working with the AMAC, the Active Mobility Advisory Committee, for the past several years. So he has very well versed in the ongoings of the city. So we're excited to have him joining us, and we can make that official announcement at the meeting on Monday as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other announcements related to the agenda or anything? No?
There's John.
Hey, John. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Sorry I'm a minute here late.
Oh, no, that's fine. Real quickly, Gabrielle, do we have the numbers that we need for Monday night for the hospital vote?
We will. We have Commissioner Strawson is not here today, and she won't be here Monday, as she previously let everyone know. And then Commissioner Valencia, we know you need to recuse yourself as you did last month, and so it will be Commissioner Malice, Zach, and Elaine will be here.
Okay.
I think she had a work conflict this afternoon, but was going to catch up on the meeting.
All right. And nothing about the agenda, right? We could just move on for Monday night, switching things around, or?
So we can touch on that quickly. We did receive a request from the applicant on the text amendment. That's the last item on your agenda. It relates to the Brickworks development, but it's really much broader than that. But they asked if the commission could consider moving that item up to after the Harmon Park item, or switching the two in order. So that's one request. And we also received a request just within the past 10 minutes. The applicant on the BMW final site plan is flying into town and has to fly out of town by 8 o'clock at the Frederick Municipal Airport. So asked if the commission could consider moving that up in the agenda. I don't know where you would move it up in the agenda. To catch a specific time frame. It's one thing to move order, of items, but I don't know how we would gauge that. Commission by majority vote can adjust the order of the agenda at the meeting itself. So if anyone is inclined to make a motion to adjust the order of the agenda, either in the two ways I just described or in any other fashion, you'd want to make that probably right at the beginning, maybe after announcements, or before we delve into the business. And then we'll take a vote, have any discussion we need to on it.
All right, thank you. So I guess we'll start off with the continuances. Should we, let me see, Brickworks Lot 1, PC 24-928 PSU FSI, combined preliminary plat and final site plan, and PC 24-929 PFCP preliminary forest conservation plan.
Yeah, they'll be requesting a 30-day continuance to the January meeting. There's a good deal of outstanding comments that we've had internal meetings on. We're trying to resolve, and hopefully we'll have them by that point.
Thank you. Any questions from any of the commissioners about this? Okay. Now we move on to the items under miscellaneous. PC 18-189 PSU FSI combined preliminary plat and final site plan for 800 East Patrick Street. I believe that's an extension request.
Thank you. There we go. That was on the agenda last month. The applicant, as you may recall, missed that within the first few minutes of the meeting. So we continued it so as to not add any confusion at the meeting, hearing it later in last month. So that's a continuation of that.
Thank you. And then I think we have another extension, PC 22405 FSI, final site plan 8401 Progress Court.
Yeah, they're just going to be asking for an extension for their site plan and APFOs. They're expiring after that 3-year period. They're citing some economic hardships that is laid out in the report.
Great, thank you. Any questions for either of these two extensions from planning commissioners? Nope, okay. D, PC 14-913-10A8 ARCH, architectural review, Ren Quarter, Phase 3.
Yeah, so this is just an architectural review. It actually is going to meet all of our standards. There's no modifications. It'll be pretty straightforward.
All right, thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Nope, okay. I guess the next item is the approval of the 2026 to 2027 Planning Commission schedules.
Yes, so these are our schedules for the upcoming year, starting with the submissions being made in January. We have a standard track and an extended track calendar. The standard track is for typical site plans, forest conservation plans, small preliminary plats. The extended track is where we get into annexations, master plans, and it has a prolonged review period at the beginning of the process to allow for staff to circulate the plan multiple times, receive multiple revisions before it gets to the commission for consideration. It keeps the same rhythm and flow as our previous year's calendars, and we do have annotations where the meetings are moved to Tuesdays if they are holidays or not on other regularly scheduled days.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments from the commissioners? Nope. Okay, I know I do have a request. Oh, go ahead, John.
I had a question. I am assuming this is the appropriate time. The standard track only goes until May, but the extended track goes until July. Can you just explain that for me?
Sure. So the calendars are organized kind of by the submission date. So we're tracking all the projects for each year and each calendar based on the submission. The
Okay.
extended track's going to roll over longer. So the calendars you'll see next year will pick up and continue that roll.
I realize now that the initial submittals are for 12 months, so thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Good
Mhm.
question.
And Gabrielle, I know I do have a request, but I'll share that request at the night of the hearing. Thank you. So old business, the master plan for Frederick Health, PC 24-662 MU.
Hello. So we did make some updates just with regard to the descriptions for the justifications for the conditional uses. The applicant provided a statement as well. So that's what was updated for the hearing.
Any questions, comments from the planning commissioners?
That's the updated justification statement document included in the agenda, correct? Is that the
Yes.
only thing? Okay, great.
Hi, Zach, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Fine, thank you. Okay, so I see Zach just spoke. Any other questions from anyone else? Okay, just real quickly. So yeah, I looked at the updated justification statement for the conditional uses, the staff report, reviewed the applicant's presentation again, the new public comment. And I just had a quick question. I did not review the traffic impact study because I think we did all of that the last time. But I did have some clarifying questions. Let's see if I can find them. And this is in regards to the helistop versus a heliport. So I'm glad that there was a distinction made because it's easy to get the two confused or mix them all together. So that was helpful. The second question I had was, and I can't remember it, and maybe I'll have to look at the traffic impact study or the applicant can talk about it. The clarifying question for me was, and I'm looking at page 19 of the staff report. When we talk about the traffic generation and so forth, light and dust and all that stuff. What I was wondering about was the heliport itself specifically, that may not necessarily apply to, but in connection or conjunction with emergency vehicle that could add additional traffic concerns and issues. And so what I'm talking about is if you have the heli port there on top of the roof, wherever it is, that in combination with, you have emergency vehicles that have to go to the hospital or from the hospital and so forth. I guess what I'm trying to understand is, could there be some traffic implications from that in addition to the flight path, and so forth, or will the flight path and safety buffers and so forth be something that would be considered at the site plan level? I'm trying to understand in regards to the uses, where does that play? Where does that factor in terms of the heliport with the emergency vehicles? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I don't know. I don't know if it would generate additional traffic. If somebody's being transferred to the hospital and then they need to be flown out somewhere, I mean, you already have that ambulance trip to the hospital. So I don't think they would transfer somebody to the hospital just to be flown out. Normally, if you have an accident and they need flown out somewhere right away, they're, landing at the accident site and then taking people to wherever they need to go. So, but if somebody's and I'm just thinking of scenarios that I'm familiar with, but, say somebody's sick. I know somebody who got bitten by a rattlesnake. They were taken to the local hospital. They triaged them and then realized they needed to fly them out to Morgantown, West Virginia, and then subsequently flew them out. But they didn't take them to the local hospital specifically to be flown out. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I actually
Yeah.
work with a shock trauma center in Baltimore, so I have pretty good
okay.
understanding. Yeah, I mean, occasionally, I think that the biggest thing with the heliport is it's showing that they are going to be having a more significant, it's not listed here, but a more significant trauma center or emergency center here that would necessitate having a helicopter transport. So I know that some hospitals don't have that, but I think to me, when I'm reading this, is that they're planning to have that level of capability, which is good for Frederick. It's good to have that more robust system. So to me, even though I know it's weird, when I see heliport, I'm actually thinking that means they're going to have more. It's going to mean necessarily they're going to have more ground transport as well. I know it's ironic, but it means that they're going to have an emergency center set up enough, or they want to have an emergency center set up enough that wouldn't necessitate having a heliport. It is occasionally that someone will be moved to a hospital and then they do need to evacuate them, and having a heliport move them because they get to the local center. They say, we don't have all of the facilities to here, then they'll ship them out to Baltimore because that's the main trauma center in Baltimore where they can, or in Maryland where they can do more. So if they're asking for a dedicated heliport, yes, it will typically be on the roof. It could be in a dedicated ground location, but it will have the clearance necessary and separate. So I think that anything that we discussed prior, and I think I brought up in the last meeting about ensuring that they have easy access into this location for the ground ambulances, then I think it shouldn't really necessarily be that much of a difference, in my opinion. But that's just my experience working with these things.
Thank you. Go ahead, Gabrielle.
I was just going to say, with the existing facility on 7th Street too, it may be a good question to ask the applicant to describe a little bit the operations of their transportation at the hospital, just as a good local comparison too. So that may be a good line of questioning for Monday night for the applicant.
I know it's
Thank you.
Baltimore.
Go ahead.
I know it's Baltimore, but yeah, you can tell when the helicopter comes in, but it's usually pretty quick. Those things go in and out pretty fast. Where it's a thing, but no different than a news helicopter, to be totally honest, especially if it's on a taller building.
Yeah, I appreciate, Zach, you providing that additional insight. That was helpful. And Gabrielle, you as well, that I will ask that question Monday night. Just real quickly, though, wondering, when we talk about the hospital from the 7th Street compared to, it's kind of different, right? Because where we are, or where they will be a mixed use, right? And then where they are now is not mixed use. Is it general commercial or?
It's institutionally zoned. I think in one of the sections of our report, we do liken this location that's proposed to the current location, because while it doesn't have the mixed use zoning, the urban fabric is very mixed use. You have a wide variety of commercial uses, residential, other institutional uses with Hood College there, kind of all acting in a mixed use capacity, and dense.
Yeah, there's right across the street from the hospital. There is the shopping center that's there, and it's like 2 blocks from the downtown core. So I think might be a little denser, but if it's a taller building there, you'd probably be the same effect.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions, comments from any other the commissioners? Nope. Okay, so we'll move on to new business. PC 25399 FSI final site plan, Harmon Park.
Yeah, so I'll be presenting, just FYI, I'll be presenting all of Pam's projects because she will be on leave during this time. As far as Harmon Park, it's not very different from the workshop. It does comply with all of our standards. And just to follow up from that workshop, the parking area, there's really no other place that it can go without increasing impervious surface and limiting the use of the park. So they have kept that where it's currently proposed.
Yeah, I think the big concern about that was that it was nearby the church and people might just use it as church overflow. But yeah, I think that's just how it's gonna have to be,
Yeah, if a parking stall is available, I imagine someone will try to use it.
Same with like street parking separately. It's just gonna be the way it is.
Any questions or comments from other commissioners?
I know we had talked a bit about, was there any change on the sign? Like I see the sign is still there. Was there any other significant changes that they made, or is it pretty? I think we talked about a fence and the sign were the 2 things that we kind of discussed.
Right, yeah, and you'll see that in there. We've addressed some of that. The main thing with the sign is they'll just need to comply with the allowable copy area, which is, I believe, 10 square feet. So there's a notation on the plan for that as well.
Okay. Zach, are you good?
Sorry, I had one other ask. My bad. I had one other. I know we had discussed too if there was going to be an adjustment for the walk across East Street. Was this discussed at all with traffic at all? Because I know we kind of talked about whether there was going to be some sort of potential for like traffic quieting, because there's that walkway that goes across from the Brickworks to this park. Was that discussed at all? Or, I think we can deal with that later, and that's maybe a city traffic type of thing, but was that kind of considered at all in the change?
Yeah, so the crosswalk, of course, we've had a lot of back and forth on how to make it safe. But as far as actual, road improvements in connection to this improvement, they're not planned, because something like a road diet would have to go through engineering and to sort that out. It's not applicable to this project currently.
Okay.
But they have work to make that, and I know it's ongoing with the project across the street as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, this is Cherry, and if I can give a quick update on it. Thanks for asking the question. Sorry, maybe my camera isn't turned on. Sorry. Yeah, I think you were asking about RRFB, the rectangular rapid flashing beacon that typically you can press and the lights come on and help with so we, as part of the Safe Streets for All work the city is doing, we have asked the consultant to prepare a document for how best city could implement RFP within the city, some guidelines on it. So once we have some recommendation from the consultant, something we would take on. Right now, the city public works not set up to install, implement, or support, maintain such a feature. So to your question, not ready to at this point, but maybe later at some point. But we may have some hierarchy as to where we apply this. So we'll keep you all posted.
Cool. No problem. Just
Thank you,
curious.
Sherry.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I had a question as well. And maybe this is just context on the project as I'm new. How is the decision made to enforce new sidewalk along the frontage of a project? I was surprised to see that all of the existing sidewalk along East Street is not proposed as part of the project. Sharon, do you do a infrastructure analysis, or is that a planning decision? Just curious.
Yeah, typically the frontage is where the improvement requirements will kick in, and city have a standard sections that we require applicant. In this case, they are improving the brickworks, the developed side, not necessarily the park side. Though I think there may be some trail connection that may become. I'm not quite familiar with the west side, but the east side will have an 8-foot wide sort of a shared use path from Monocacy all the way to South Street, which will be an improvement over the existing sidewalk. So that's something that was part of the master plan, kind of carrying forward into the design. So to your question, we always have to fall back on the standard sections unless there are some other overarching need that comes into light that say, oh, you need to change something and you improve the infrastructure, like in East Street, because we said it needs to be a shared use path.
So by it being 5 feet and ADA compliant, it's not required to be updated because it meets the code in the master plan.
Correct. I mean, if
Okay.
you're asking particularly about the sidewalk in front of the park,
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, it doesn't really trigger that level of reconstruction. I'm not sure if it's a 4-foot sidewalk or 5 feet. 5 feet there. Believe it's 5 feet, then it meets the standard section.
Yep. It at least based off the takeoffs I did is 5. So appreciate the context there. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, real quickly. So the city is the one that's going to be doing the undertaking in terms of making all the updates. Does that include the parking area, the parking lot area, adding the additional 20 spaces?
Correct.
Okay. I had a question for page 6, the action. I noticed that we mentioned the sign, the fence, the ADA entrances, and the walking path, but the parking is not added to that, the 20 spaces. Is that not necessary to be added in the action number 1? I'm just wondering, is there a reason why it's left out, I guess, maybe is what I'm wondering. Is it because you would be adding 20 more spaces? Like, why isn't it?
Well, there aren't any requirements for parking, so they can add parking, but it wouldn't require a modification or anything separate. It's just baked into the parking standards.
Okay, so it wouldn't need to be part of the final site plan approval or anything like that.
It's part of the action to approve the whole site plan is that parking is included. But it's not a separate actionable item because there's no modification or anything extra.
So adding the 20 additional spaces is not making any changes?
So it's part of the overall site plan. The only time that you would have an additional actionable item is if a modification was being requested. But
Okay.
as there are no parking requirements, the 20 spaces, those are fine. They're not outside of the realm of our LMC.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so no additional action is needed.
Okay.
Just to add on to that, the conditions that we do have are tweaks that we want to see on the plan to get it to the state where we want to unconditionally approve it. So the parking is fine as it is. There are no adjustments. There's no conditions necessary. The other things need to be just updated a little bit to make sure that the ultimately approved plan reflects the expectation for what's going to be constructed ultimately.
Okay. Thank you. Now we move on to PC 25193 FSI, AstraZeneca Perfusion Edition.
Yeah, so this one, it was on the agenda for, I don't know, I think it might have been October, and but they needed to make a couple of changes. They increased the size of the addition, and then they were also putting some outdoor stairs onto the addition. So that's why it got continued, and so they're ready to go this time.
Okay. Any questions from any of the commissioners? Okay, everyone is good. So we move on to PC 25400 FSI final site plan 220 Northeast Street.
For this one, let's see. I don't think there were any outstanding issues. See, I'm just scrolling down through. They have just a couple of conditions of approval. Those are all minor. They do have to update their parking area plan because the minimum within the area has to be 0.2 foot candles. So, and that's it. So if you have any questions for that one.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone about this particular project? Natasha? Go ahead.
Yeah. Will that be updated by the hearing or
No,
that
it
is
would,
the mo-
it's, yeah, they have to do it, have to have it's condition of approval, so they'll have to do it before we can stamp the plan unconditionally approved. Yeah,
so that's why it's in the action list. Okay, got it. Thank you.
yeah, sure.
Anyone else? Zach or John? Nope. Okay, thank you. Let me see. So we are now at Highland Trail PC 2550 PSU FSI combined preliminary plat and final site plan, PC 2556 PFCP preliminary forest conservation plan.
Yes. So for this one, this is the one where they were moving forward, and then they redesigned the townhouse areas to shift, I think it was 16 townhouses down to the south side of Highland Street, or what will be Highland Street. So they needed to make some design changes, like update stormwater and that type of thing. So sorry, my dog is whining in the background. So they made those changes, and like I said, they updated their stormwater, and they have a couple of I think this is the one they're asking for a couple of modifications for, but other than that, everything else was good, good to go. So yeah, they're asking for the modifications for the street details. So, and they just to update, they did have some that were approved with the master plan. So these are just a couple of additional ones for the plat and site plan.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? None? Okay. Guess we'll move on to the BMW of Frederick, PC 25-194 FSI final site plan, PC 25-195 FSCB combined forest stand delineation and preliminary forest conservation plan.
Yeah, so this one is very, very similar to what you saw in workshop. The modifications are the same. They're quite minor in nature. So it's just the two modifications. Everything else meets standards. So staff is going to support it as presented.
Okay, any questions from anyone? Nope. Zach, you thinking? Nope, okay. All right, the next one is the final one, which is a PC 25-249 ZTA zoning text amendment, section 838, table 838-1, use regulations.
Yeah, so this one, we've seen a couple reiterations of this. We've had 2 workshops. So you'll see stuff from the beginning and some new stuff. But I think we've finally come to a place where all of the items have been addressed. The big thing being that we are putting back in about the reviewing authority to differentiate between, variances that are held under the ZBA and those that are actually planning commissions for those conditional uses through mixed use projects. They've also added in a definition of mixed-use buildings, as requested at the last workshop. We've also added in that they will be following the commercial guidelines, design guidelines, so that way we're going to ensure that active streetscape.
Great. Any questions? Comments? Going once, going twice? Okay, I have none. All right, so I guess that's it. But before we go, I just wanted to extend again a warm welcome to John Temple. Welcome. We're excited to have you. So thank you for showing up today. And we look forward to seeing you Monday night. Excited to get your perspective and insight. And I also wanted to extend a warm welcome to Zach, since I missed him on the first go around because I was on leave. So Zach, it's exciting to continue to work with you. Love the energy that you bring. So I'm very excited to also have you as well. And then since I'm going around, I might as well just say I really enjoy Natasha, and her input and insight as well as a ongoing member. So, and thanks to staff for
It will be December 30th, but thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to say, obviously, a great thank you to staff as always for everything that they do. Really do appreciate you guys. And if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. And that's it.
We do have our pre-planning commission training sessions if we have time and want to delve into the comprehensive plan conversation. I mean, this is a conversation that we could spend, and people do spend months and months and years talking about. But if we have the time, it's about 3:30. If we have the time to spend a couple of minutes, I would love to share with you this and start the conversation, and we can absolutely pick it up at another workshop or planning commission at some point in the future. So we can jump into that real quick. And I was, while we were talking about the other items, I had like a little aha moment. We just recently had the opportunity to do some meet and greet with our new council members, which will be taking office next Thursday. And it was very cool to talk with them and to share what we do here. And this was throughout the city. They've made their rounds. And in preparing for that, we put together a diagram that I think would be helpful to show you guys real quick as we start this conversation about the comprehensive plan. Let me just find it. Because putting it together was in itself, one of those kind of reinforces the principles we're working with. Let me do this. Talk and share the screen at the same time. Here we go. So we talk about the comprehensive plan. Hopefully everyone is looking at this diagram here. It says the planning process real big at the top. Does everyone see that? When we talk about the planning process, I think a lot of people think about our monthly meetings with the Planning Commission and the agenda items we all just discussed. And as you all know, this is really the implementation aspect of what is a much, much larger planning process. Adopting a site plan is really the kind of end product of this really much larger planning process. And so what I wanted to reinforce them, and I think is a nice way to preface our comprehensive plan discussion, is how this comprehensive planning relates to the work that we do on a regular basis. And so this diagram is trying to convey that we have the comprehensive plan and we adopt that, and that's our policy document. That's where we establish our visions and our goals and objectives and timeframes in which we want to achieve these policy statements. And then all of that gets played out through a bunch of different mechanisms. It happens through infrastructure plans, like we develop Let's Move Frederick or a Green Streets Master Plan or a Streets Master Plan. And these are kind of more narrowing in, honing in on either specific areas like we'll do with our small area plans, or specific aspects of design and life like streets. And we set forth these policy documents. And so we kind of, we go from this very, very large picture of the entire city and every aspect of life down to a more refined topic, and we develop policies. And from those policies, out may come regulations, out may come, Cherian mentioned them earlier, standard infrastructure design details, which are going to tell us how wide the sidewalk should be or the lanes, or if there should be a bike lane in certain locations. And then out of that, we apply those things through the site plans that we just talked about, or the master plans, or the preliminary plats. The comprehensive plan is also really implemented through the budget. Obviously, we're making decisions about how we're allocating money, which is resources. The capital improvement program is when we then take, these ideas. Our comprehensive plan lays out a policy. We want to improve street sidewalks and the quality and location of sidewalks. Well, those end up being, brass tacks money decisions that get played out through our capital improvement program. Once again, we touched on the small area plans. Those will be policy into regulations into our daily planning commission review processes. And then lastly, the regulations themselves are also an implementation tool of the comprehensive plan. And then we apply those and through the individual applications. So I thought this was just a really nice diagram, a way to envision what really is the much larger planning process. It's not the site plan review process that in and of itself has its own steps it goes through. But the planning process is really this much larger interwoven series of decision making that plays out through a lot of different mechanisms besides the site plan. Often that is the end product of this much larger multi-year, multifaceted review process. So I just wanted to share that. And I can send you a copy of this if you're interested. It wasn't in the training materials. So with that aside, we'll go back to the comprehensive plan and the attachment that you do have in your packet. And everyone has the opportunity to read it in their own time. But the first thing I just wanted to kind of define is, what is a comprehensive plan? This is a definition from the Maryland Department of Planning. They define it as well as anybody else would. So we did steal from there for inspiration. But it is a general overall guiding document that's touching on all aspects of life. It's looking at growth and environment and how we develop. And it is a mandatory component of our world. The annotated code requires that we all comprehensive plan and that we develop a plan for a 10-year period. There are certain elements that have to be captured within your comprehensive plan, and I listed those out. Governor Moore also passed a resolution, or I think it's a resolution last year that establishes certain planning principles that then should be applied to those elements. So how do we sustainably think about the water resources element? How do we sustainably think about housing? So kind of guiding principles for how we approach those different elements that must all be in our comprehensive plan. As you can see here, we've listed those out. Our elements are kind of interwoven through the chapters of our comprehensive plan. We used to, the 2010 comprehensive plan called out kind of like a housing element, right? And that was a chapter all, honing in on that requirement for housing. In the 2020 comprehensive plan, we steered a little bit away from calling it the housing element chapter, because housing is interwoven throughout this whole document, right? We're still meeting the state's requirements for housing because we're talking about it's infused throughout this, but recognizing that interplay between transportation and sustainability and housing. It would be nice if you could put them in little buckets, but that's not the world we live in. And so our nomenclature in the comprehensive plan changed a little bit, but those elements are all still captured in our adopted version of our comprehensive plan. The plan covers a 10-year period, and we are required to do a 5-year mid-cycle report. So our work plan that we adopted for our department that guides how we're going to work, right? So this is comprehensive plan is the big policies for what we want to establish. In 2025, we established a work plan that was then going to tell ourselves and the public how our department was going to move through these things. Our work plan lays out a tentative target for how we're going to approach our 5-year annual or our 5-year update. Beginning in the fourth quarter of this year, we were going to start doing some of our data collection. We're a bit behind on that end goal, but with our 5-year period coming up next year in 2026, we need to start on that work. So we'll be starting to gather data and background and focus on the different updates that need to be made and the reporting that we need to do in that 5-year period. We also do annual reporting to the state, which we present to this commission every year. That is a much more kind of data-driven reporting mechanism. It's more on how many units did you approve, what sorts of developments. So it's not as policy, but more kind of data-driven. And we'll be preparing that. It'll be before you in the summer. I think we have to have to the state by July 1, so June-ish. We listed in our training document some of the notable changes from the 2010 comprehensive plan to the 2020 comp plan, which we all call it the 2020 comp plan. It actually went into effect in October of 2021, but 2020 just stuck because that was when most of the work and review processes with the public and the council and planning commission were occurring. So there's a list of kind of notable initiatives that were deviations or progression on ideas that were in the 2010 comprehensive plan. One of them was to expand the concept of small area planning beyond just the commercial corridors. So the 2010 looked at, the Golden Mile and the planning around that area. The map that you'll see in our 2020 comprehensive plan for small area planning encompasses the entire city. So each area is broken up into what will be then a more refined kind of mini comprehensive plan that will move through to look at those areas and their unique characteristics. We introduced a whole host of new mixed use land use categories, including community mixed use, neighborhood, downtown, corridor, and industrial. The intent there is to start graying the world a little bit more to make sure that we're integrating land uses in ways that make alternative means of getting around more viable, that make more vibrant communities. So that was an adjustment. And we also focused a lot more on increasing residential densities, recognizing that one of our aspirations is to be a dense community. We are a city. That's how we're going to promote mixed use and alternative means of transportation, is having that critical mass of people. So we updated our residential zoning categories to moderate, medium, and high, and adopted a concept called the density enhancement area, which is an area around the downtown that we contemplate getting rid of maximum densities altogether. And this is consistent with the concept of our transit-oriented development application that we'll be bringing forward to the council next year. All of these ideas kind of coalescing around the dense urban core, access to the MARC train, hopefully expanding that service at some point and having the population around it to support that. We called for new transportation planning initiatives, including a streets master plan, which would look not only at how the street network grows out on the periphery of the city as we expand, but also where internal connections need to be made and how that ultimate network of streets will look. And Let's Move Frederick, which is our comprehensive bicycle and pedestrian plan that we will be bring forward to the council and probably an update to the planning commission at the beginning of the year. We've made some adjustments to that over the past year or so, just to kind of expand all of the related projects that deal with sidewalk enhancement, et cetera. We generalized our municipal growth areas. So the old map that showed where we might annex was very property specific. This one, that one, the next one. If you look at the map in our comprehensive plan now, it is kind of this pink blob. I always think about the Ghostbusters movie. I'm probably dating myself because that was an old one, but Dorothy's smiling, she knows. The pink goo that was under the streets of New York. That is the bubble around the city. Our annexation policies focus much more on benefit, not as opposed to this property, that property. What are these properties going to deliver in terms of our needs to meet housing goals, amenities, et cetera? So it created some flexibility there. We established some new policy objectives for community character and urban design, including form-based code. We have the second draft of the East Street Corridor form-based code that we've been reviewing. We've generated comments on, and that's also an initiative we'll be bringing to the council starting in the beginning of the year. And neighborhood conservation districts. I like the way Christina Martinkowski in our historic preservation section describes them. It's kind of like a historic preservation overlay light. It's a concept whereby we would adopt a zoning and a regulatory framework to provide some oversight that's more detailed in terms of the nature and character of the area, if it has some historical significance, but not to the degree of the historic preservation overlay. So maybe we recognize in an older neighborhood that the houses are all of a certain scale, or they all have a similar setback or relationship to the street. So you would define regulations that maintain those characteristics, but maybe don't go to the depths that our historic preservation overlay and guidelines do. What else do we do? I think very importantly, and this gets back to kind of weaving certain concepts throughout the document, climate change and the need for resilience and preparedness was a big component of this comprehensive plan, as well as equity and inclusion. Those themes were woven throughout because those aren't really topical areas. Those are ways we should approach life in all areas of the comprehensive plan. And then we made some adjustments related to the historic preservation overlay. We removed our own local reference map to potential historic properties to refer to the Maryland Historical Trust's resources, which are the preferred option. And we also called out the update of our National Register district, and then the follow-up with the potential expansion of the historic preservation overlay to capture those areas, or some of those areas. So the 2020 plan was really advanced and progressive in a lot of areas. Like I said, climate resiliency, equity, inclusion, urban design, kind of fulfilling those mixed use objectives. The next thing we have in our training handout there is the Comprehensive Plan Monitoring Report and Program. And this is something we're very excited to be bringing to the Commission and the Council on the next couple of months. The Chapter 13 is the implementation chapter of our comprehensive plan, and it establishes the Comprehensive Plan Monitoring Program, where we should be checking in and seeing what kind of progress are we making on the different goals and objectives. If you look through Chapter 13 with all of the policies listed, each one is assigned a time frame, and there's a nice little clock icon that catches your eye, and they're short-term, mid-term, long-term, ongoing. So over the course of probably about the past 6 or 7 months, our community planning and urban design team, led by Brandon, has been going through an exhaustive interview process with all of the different departments in the city, pulling up these policies, asking them where they are on progress on certain objectives. And that's being pulled together into this monitoring report that we'll be presenting hopefully soon. And sharing that with everyone and giving us a great baseline for how much progress we've made, and then starting the conversation of where do we go next, and how do we keep the momentum in implementing these policies going, recognizing that maybe we have to have some conversations about policies that might also not be relevant, or policies that we think are relevant now that we didn't think were then, how our priorities have changed over the past couple of years. So that will be an exciting thing to share. And then Lastly, I just wanted to drive home that the state does require that our regulatory framework implement our comprehensive plan. That's the whole goal, right? To take the visions and then to adopt rules that bring that into fruition. And you know, there is the policy is more generalized. So they don't translate necessarily into a specific rule every time. Those are the conversations we have to have when we're doing text amendments. And you're asked to think about the relationship of the change to the comprehensive plan, or when, you know, we're doing any sort of amendment to the code, is to really bring home that relationship. Are our rules getting us the vision that we wanted? And how do they need to be changed to implement that vision? That is back to the web of all the different planning process steps. That's the really key component. So that was more than I probably even wanted to say. And it's a lot of information. It's each conversation could be broken down to another hour-long conversation about it. But hopefully that provides you kind of a good step back from the daily work of site design that we do to think broadly how it fits into a much bigger process. I can answer any questions, whatever.
Any questions from the commissioners? Nope. You know, I have a question, so I just wanted to wait to see if anybody else had questions. Natasha, any questions? Nope. Nobody. Okay. So I just had a clarifying question, and I see Scott's on here. So it's really for you and Scott, because I remember the bell tower project we had years ago.
Okay.
And I remember that was like years ago. And I remember a conversation that you, me, Scott, and Barbara Nicholas had about approvals and disapprovals when you're making your motions and stuff. And so I just wanted to confirm, because I believe this is accurate, but wanted to double check with the both of you, because both of you provided us feedback on it. Because the comprehensive plan is more conceptual and visionary, when making motions and reasons why you would approve or disapprove, you know, an action, only citing the comprehensive plan would not be appropriate, because there's no regulatory framework around it. It couldn't be, if there was an appeal, legally defensible. Is that accurate?
I wish it were that cut and dry. I think that the answer is kind of, it depends, right? Some of the projects and some of the decisions that you're made ask you to consider the comprehensive plan. So for example, if you got a request for a modification for something, a component of any one of these site plans, and you have 3 findings you have to make. It's you know, consistent with the code, it's not contrary to the comprehensive plan, and there's compensating design features. If you found something to be so in conflict with the comprehensive plan where you're given the discretion to consider it, and you said, no, this is really inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, this is not bringing this into fruition, it's not consistent, then that would be okay. However, if you had a building that was proposed that was 65 feet tall and the maximum height was 75 feet, and it met the regulations of the code, and you were concerned because it didn't seem compatible with the community, and you went, well, compatibility with the community is a comprehensive plan goal. If you were to deny that based on the comprehensive plan, that would be a dangerous territory, because the goal is to adopt regulations that implement the comprehensive plan. And when whoever decided 75 feet was the max height, that's what they were doing. And whether we agree with it now or don't agree with it now, or in this situation, it feels wrong, that would be bad to deny something like that, where you're not being asked to consider the comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan is baked in that regulation and they met that regulation. That would not be a good idea.
So what I hear you saying, just to clarify, is because it meets the requirement of the LMC, even though you may feel that it does not meet the requirement of the comprehensive plan, you just can't say, I'm gonna deny this based on the comprehensive plan, even though it complies with the LMC. And I think that was my original
Yeah.
question or point.
Yep, exactly.
there- Can I ask a
And-
follow-up? Are there
Yeah.
times when that LMC is not compliant with the comp plan?
So it's not a matter of compliant because the
Or-
comp plan is, but it's not in concert with, or it's not, we don't find, so John, that's a perfect question. And that is a legislative process. So yes, there may be times that we go, this rule does not reflect this policy of the comprehensive plan. We all said we wanted affordable housing, and we feel that this rule is counter to it's driving prices up for some reason, right? I'm not sure. Can't think of anything good off the fly. But if we find that and we go, wow, this rule is really not promoting affordable housing like we thought it would, then it's a legislative process to change that law, to bring it into accord. And I think one of the I think quite candidly, I think one of the frustrations that I see in the community, I think the commission's seen, and a goal we want to work towards is that we did a 2020 comprehensive plan. We established these mixed use land use classifications. We haven't followed up with the regulatory framework, reevaluating the regulatory framework to see if it's still meeting these goals. We didn't perform a comprehensive rezoning. That's something that's also frequently done after a comprehensive plan update is you go, okay, well, we changed we changed our land uses. We changed where we wanted land uses. Do we need to rezone to reflect that? Those are all steps of that implementation of the comp plan. So your problem isn't the project. The problem is that we don't feel as a community that the regulation is implementing the comp plan, and the fix is to make that happen, right? But not deny a project, unfortunately, right? Like, I mean, that's you don't go, well, I don't think this implements the comp plan, you meet the codes, you're fired, right? Like you're not kicking it out. Instead, you need to change those rules, and that's something I think our department's very focused on. I think the community is very focused on. It's making sure that we have a beautiful comp plan. I mean, it is. I think there are 500 when we were doing this comprehensive plan monitoring report. It was 548 policies. 548 different goals and objectives. That's amazing, but it's thorough and it's complete, and it represented a lot of feedback and inspiration from the community. And that's why this monitoring report is very helpful, because it allows us to kind of stop and go, okay, where are we? What have we not started to move on? What do we need to move on? And updated legislation is part of that.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Any
Mhm.
comments, Scott, or additional comments?
Well, I don't think I have anything better to say. I think that was said pretty well. I was gonna say that we designed the LMC to reflect the comprehensive plan, and we just should assume that that's what is the legislative intent. And unless and sometimes the planning commission has done that, where they'll decide to write a letter or author a letter that says, hey, we think something needs to be changed, and that's what Gabrielle was talking about. That can be done, but no, I think in general, when you are looking at the LMC, we are all of the belief, or all of the hive mind, that the LMC is a reflection of the comprehensive plan, and there's no inconsistencies in there. Even though maybe we feel, independently there may be some, I think we have to take the LMC as on its face being consistent with the comp plan.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Feedback? Going once, going twice? Thank you, Gabrielle, for that wonderful training that you provided to us. We do appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yes, that was
Mhm.
great. Thank you.
Right, everyone, have a great weekend.
Happy Friday. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.